Hello, everybody. It's currently 3:57 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Tuesday, April 21st. Currently, I am making another severe weather video. Unfortunately, the Storm Prediction Center just brought us a massive update, and it is not a good one. Uh, sorry, y'all, allergies are just really up in the air today, and when are they not? Um, as you can see, we have two marginal risks today. One including uh, what do you call it, the Chicago area to Gary, Indiana to Southwest Michigan, and also another one. This is the Chicago one, and this is just one of the Californian mountains. Just some general thunderstorms potentially there. Um, let's just take a look at it really quickly. So again, marginal risk for Chicago Metro into Gary, Indiana, into Southwest Michigan, and another marginal risk for the Californian mountains. There's a 2% risk of tornadoes for that marginal risk. There's also a 5% wind risk for that marginal risk, and a 5% risk of wind for the Chicago Metro. And there's also a 5% risk of hail for California and the Chicago Metro. So the Chicago Metro expect to get a couple of thunderstorms capable of very minor wind and hail damage, and expect all hazards in California. One or two tornadoes here or there, large hail or damaging winds. Sorry, I shouldn't say large hail or damaging winds. I should say small hail and very gusty winds. They may damage some very small things, but not really of anything significant. Same thing for Same thing for tomorrow's outlook. For Wednesday, there's a marginal risk that extends all the way from the Texas Panhandle through the Oklahoman Panhandle, through western Kansas and western Nebraska, into northeast Colorado, into the extreme eastern part of Wyoming, and western South Dakota. So from the Texas Panhandle all the way up to South Dakota, there's a severe weather risk expected. Won't be a very big severe weather risk. I mean, not, well, big as in surface area, yes, but not big as in severe. Um, there's no tornado risk, not not a single bit of tornado risk. Wednesday's not really going to be the biggest day. There's not really going to be, I mean, sure, the instability may be a little bit elevated, but overall thermodynamics are not really that supportive of severe potential. However, we do have a 5% risk of wind that extends from northwest Kansas up through northeast Colorado, western Nebraska, uh, extreme eastern Wyoming, and what do you call it, western South Dakota. And then we have hail, a 5% hail risk, extending from the Texas Panhandle all the way up to western Nebraska. So, yeah, that's really not going to be a very pertinent severe weather risk. It's not going to be super potent, super bad, super terrible. Just just general thunderstorms. However, this day is going to fuel this day. This day, Thursday. This is Thursday severe weather risk. Uh, it Tomorrow will fuel Thursday. Thursday, there's a slight risk from northern Oklahoma into southern Minnesota, specifically the southwestern part of Minnesota. Also goes up through central and eastern Kansas, the northwestern part of Missouri, eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, and southeast South Dakota. Some metro areas include Kansas City, Omaha, Wichita, Lincoln, and Des Moines. So some major metro areas are going to be affected by the severe weather risk on Thursday. Also in the marginal risk, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Springfield, and Dubuque are in this risk as well. Not Springfield, Illinois, but Springfield, Missouri. Uh, so probabilistic outlook, there's a 5% risk which equates to the marginal risk from the Oklahoma-Texas border all the way up to the American-Canadian border. It equates to that 5%. And then, the slight risk from northern Oklahoma to southwest Minnesota is the slight risk. Also, we have a stippling region, a SIG 1, stretching from the Oklahoma-Texas border all the way up to around Omaha. Maybe points a little bit north and a little bit west. But the conditional intensity group 1, or the hatching region, mainly stops near Omaha. So, from the Oklahoma-Texas border all the way up to around southeast or southwest Iowa and northwest Missouri, that's where the risk stops. So wonderful. uh, let's read the description. Uh, Now, this is just one out of 4 other days of a slight risk. It goes from Thursday to Friday to Saturday to Sunday to Monday. Monday, ironically, is the 15-year anniversary of the April 27th, 2011 tornado super outbreak that occurred in Dixie Alley in the southeast. And the reason why I said ironically is because uh, the risk includes the southeast on Monday. Monday, day 7, there's a slight risk equivalent, a severe weather risk that includes the southeastern United States, parts of uh, what was dealt with in April 27th, 2011. So that's why I said it's kind of ironic. They do say that a tornado super outbreak occurs at least every decade. More than that, likely, however, I should say at most a decade. But yeah, so hopefully nothing too bad happened, but I'm probably going to have to eat my words because this is probably not going to be great. Anyway, so there's a slight risk of severe thunderstorms uh, from portions of the mid-Missouri Valley into southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma. Summary. Severe thunderstorms will be possible from northern Oklahoma into southern Minnesota on Thursday. Large to very large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes are possible. Synopsis. Two shortwave troughs within a larger scale trough over much of the Rockies will pivot northeast on Thursday. The initial shortwave will impact parts of the Central Plains and mid-Missouri Valley. A second compact shortwave will pivot into parts of Oklahoma and Kansas. At the surface, moisture return will continue ahead of a Pacific cold front in the Central Plains. A weak surface low is expected to develop along the Oklahoma-Kansas border and track eastward. Attendant to this low, a dry line will drape southward into the Permian Basin, central and southern Kansas, into Oklahoma. With mid-level ascent arriving mid to late afternoon, storms are likely to initiate along the cold front as well as near the triple point associated with the weak surface low along the Kansas-Oklahoma border. Supercells are most likely near the triple point and could persist so long as storm interactions remain minimal. 40 to 45 knots of shear, and 2 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer convective available potential energy will promote storms capable of all hazards, including tornadoes and very large hail. A strong low-level jet will develop ahead of this activity during the evening. The tornado threat could increase for storms that can remain discrete. In Oklahoma, if and how many storms develop remains uncertain along the dry line. Northern portions of Oklahoma are more likely to have severe storms given the proximity to the surface low. A similar environment will exist east of the dry line as does farther north into southern Kansas. There is a conditional threat for all severe hazards. In the mid-Missouri Valley, storms are expected to develop along the cold front potentially as early as mid-afternoon. However, capping appears strong enough in forecast soundings that initiation could develop until late afternoon. Steep mid-level lapse rates will be in place along and ahead of the front. Deep layer shear will be 30 to 40 knots, but generally parallel to the front. Initial storms could be supercellular and produce large to very large hail early in the convective cycle. Upscale growth appears likely to occur rather quickly. Damaging and severe winds would be the primary risk at that point. Tornadoes are also possible given the low-level shear, both with initial supercells and perhaps with quasi-linear convective system circulations. So, for Thursday severe weather risk, there is an all hazards threat. Uh, Wind and hail are favored more than tornadoes because of the upscale growth. Uh, that doesn't mean that a tornado can't form. It's just that, the likelihood of one forming is low, which is great, which is great. It needs to stay that way. We've already had a ton of tragedies this year. Over 71 tornadoes have been confirmed on April 17th. That was at moderate risk day in Oklahoma, and then enhanced risk day that extended into Wisconsin. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. Now, this is the part that gets daunting quickly. So, this is Friday's severe weather risk. Friday is day 4, Saturday is day 5, Sunday is day 6, Monday is day 7, excuse me, and Tuesday is day 8. This is day 4. This is the day 4 outlook. This is Friday's outlook. So we have a slight risk that goes from southwest Missouri to uh, central and western Arkansas into southeast Oklahoma, into northeast Texas, and the extreme portion of northwest Louisiana. Now, Dallas, Plano, Garland, Irving, and Little Rock, Arkansas are under the severe weather risk for Friday. Keep in mind that Little Rock is in the central portion of Arkansas. So just watch Little Rock appear across the board. You'll understand what I'm saying. So this is Friday's severe weather outlook. Day 4. Nothing much. Kind of just minimal. Contained to the Arklatex region, basically. This is day 5. Now, from day 4 to day 5, you see at the bottom of the screen there on near Oklahoma, Texas. This is day 4, Friday. This is day 5, Saturday. So Saturday's severe weather outlook gets progressively bigger and more enhanced, and now includes southeast Kansas, central and eastern Oklahoma, a very large part of northeast and east central Texas, into northwest Louisiana, into central and western Arkansas, and southwest Missouri. Uh, Little Rock does appear on this map. Little Rock is in this slight risk equivalent of severe weather. It just doesn't say so. If I turn on cities, boom, there it is, Little Rock. Little Rock is in the risk. Uh, is in this specific risk. Now, from Saturday to Sunday, nothing really much has changed. The slight risk still remains, or I should say the slight risk equivalent, 15% risk area, risk demarcation, still remains day 5 to day 6, Saturday to Sunday. There isn't really much of a change with where the severe weather is going to take place. Albeit the risk was moved just a smidge north, and the southern part of the risk that includes Texas has shrunk a little bit. So there is that. But, still, yet again, remains the same, remains in the southern portion of the United States, and does include, uh, same thing really, southeast Kansas, east and central Oklahoma, central and east Oklahoma, I should say, Northeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Central and Western Arkansas, and Southwest Missouri. Now, Little Rock is in that severe risk as well. See where I'm going with this? Little Rock is also in that severe weather risk. Boom! Little Rock is in that severe weather risk. From day 5 to day 6. Look at this. Day 4, Little Rock is in the risk. Day 5, Little Rock is in the risk. Day 6, Little Rock is in the risk. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Little Rock is in the risk. But you thought it ended there? No, we still got one more day. Boom, day 7. Now, day 7 is a complete shift from day 6. Day 6, the eastern fringe of the risk area, essentially ended a couple of miles to the east of Little Rock. Now, if you look at day 7, this is Monday, April 27th, the thing I was mentioning earlier about the commemoration of April 27, 2011, stuff like that. Day 6, like I said just 5 seconds ago, basically, the eastern fringe of this risk ends just a couple of miles to the east of the Little Rock area. Day 7, boom, the western fringe ends at Little Rock. Little Rock is also in this risk as well. You could see, boom, it's right there, Little Rock. So this risk now contains the Dixie Alley. It's the southeast, basically. This risk contains Little Rock and eastern Arkansas, northern and eastern and north central Louisiana, central and northern Mississippi, central and northern Alabama, central and western Tennessee, central and western Kentucky, southwest Indiana, southern Illinois, and southeast Missouri. Also, I can't forget, portions of northwest Georgia. This, my friend, is what the Dixie Alley has been lacking. The Dixie Alley has not gotten any severe weather since January 1st, 2026. They haven't gotten a single tornado warning, literally. They're deserted of their severe weather. And now the jet stream is providing the severe weather. It's saying, here you go. Here it is. Have at it. So again, this is Friday's severe risk. This is Saturday's. This is Sunday's. And this is Monday's. So again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. Now, I'm going to read the description and I'm going to say some information that should jar you. Because, number one, I didn't know that the Storm Prediction Center was going to go all out and issue 4 consecutive slight risks. Well, technically 5 if you count day 3. 4 slight risk equivalents, I should say. 4 15% areas. I didn't know that they were going to do that. Yes, I saw it on the Colorado State University machine learning probabilities model, but I didn't really think that they were gonna like go all out. Yes, the Storm Prediction Center did talk about, severe weather, mentioning that, but I didn't realize it was gonna be this bad. But that just goes to show what happens when uncertainties are ruled out. You have many more possibilities that are unlocked, and this is evidence. So anyway, let's scroll down to this. Notice this first sentence. An active severe weather pattern is expected through much of the forecast period. That should tell you already what's about to happen. So, discussion. An active severe weather pattern is expected through much of the forecast period. First paragraph. Broadly cyclonic mid-level flow will persist through much of the forecast period to the south of a closed upper low over south-central Canada. This will place much of the southern plains in westerly or southwesterly mid and upper level flow each day. At the same time, low-level patterns will support southerly flow from the surface up through 850 millibars across the same region. The result will be an increasingly moist air mass to the east of a north-to-south oriented dry line across western Oklahoma and Kansas, and to the south of a remnant west-to-east frontal boundary. Diurnal heating of this moist air mass will result in afternoon most unstable convective available potential energy values around 2 to 3,000 joules per kilogram Friday and Saturday beneath 30 to 40 knots of vertical shear. Model guidance continues to show several perturbations within the mid-level flow traversing the southern plains on Friday into Sunday morning. The result will be multiple rounds of severe thunderstorms. The exact location and dimensions of these daily severe threats will likely be augmented by the prior days' convection, but the overall pattern supports near daily severe potential across much of the southern plains. Now I'm going to highlight stuff for you, and I will basically go into detail and explain how this contributes. Uh, uh, how this basically contributes. Uh, So, the result will be an increasingly moist air mass to the east of a north to south oriented dry line across western Oklahoma and Kansas, and to the south of a remnant west to east frontal boundary. This also put in the southerly flow, but I don't want to highlight that. This highlighted sentence right here, where it says the result will be an increasingly moist air mass to the east of a north to south oriented dry line across western Oklahoma and Kansas, and to the south of a remnant west to east frontal boundary. That right there means that every day, days 4, day 5, and day 6, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, moisture will churn from the Gulf of Mexico and move north to its target. All right? And it will be favorably oriented and will be advecting a lot of moisture up into the atmosphere, up into higher higher latitudes, uh, closer to the poles. So the dew points will be moving north and north and north, and favorable kinematics. They all merge together and cause that severe weather risk. Now, around 2 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. That is a lot of CAPE. All right. You may think, oh, well, I heard that only 1,000 joules per kilogram is necessary for thunderstorm development. 2,000 joules per kilogram doesn't seem like a lot. Well, I mean, it may not sound like a lot. However, again, if 1,000 joules per kilogram is needed for thunderstorm development that can be sustained, 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of most unstable convective available potential energy, key phrase, most unstable, that can rapidly grow and expand thunderstorm development. Thunderstorms will be able to use that convective available potential energy, or CAPE, and use it to explode. They will burst off like a top. They will just explode and they will have no signs of remorse or wanting to quit. They are just going to be persistent little bastardly thunderstorms, and they're going to just keep churning and churning and churning. 30 to 40 knots of vertical shear, could be a little bit better, if you really want a major severe weather outbreak, which I don't. Nobody does, but I mean, it's good for the storm chasers, so maybe the storm chasers are rooting for one, but I'm not a storm chaser, so I'm not really going to root for one. Uh, 30 to 40 knots of vertical shear, that is definitely very modest wind shear, and that can favor uh favor tornadoes. So that's all I have to highlight in those two paragraphs. Let's go down to these last two. On Sunday, day 6, a stronger yet compact mid-level wave is forecast to move northeast across Oklahoma. This wave is forecast to induce cyclogenesis across western Oklahoma, which should act to sharpen a dry line. To the east of the dry line, strong southerly winds will support surface dew points, increasing into the upper 60s to perhaps low 70s. This is the crazy part. Diurnal heating of this air mass will result in most unstable convective available potential energy values of nearing 4,000 joules per kilogram. 4,000. We haven't had convective available potential energy. We haven't had CAPE that high yet. That is wild. Anyway, like I was saying, diurnal heating of this air mass will result in MU CAPE values nearing 4,000 joules per kilogram across central Oklahoma. Deep layer shear approaching 50 knots will overspread the region during the afternoon as the main wave approaches. Although global models are struggling to initiate convection along the dry line, pattern recognition would support a significant severe weather threat Sunday evening. The lack of model convective initiation results in enough uncertainty to preclude the introduction of 30% unconditional severe probabilities. All severe hazards will be possible on Sunday. Let's just take a look at that paragraph there after I blow my nose. So, apologies for the suspense. Alrighty, we are back. My apologies. So, let's highlight some things. Here we go. This is actually that whole thing we can highlight. To the east of the drawline, strong southerly winds will support surface dew points increasing into the upper 60s to perhaps low 70s. That is scary. Because if you think about it, what contributes to severe weather? Well, there's an acronym called SLIM. Shear, lift, instability, and moisture. Shear is mentioned in this paragraph or highlighted couple of sentences. Lift is basically just how much the air parcels can rise. Cape is at how quickly they can rise. Uh, I instability cape, that basically means how forceful is the atmosphere. Cape and lift are kind of go hand in hand. And moisture. Moisture is involved in the first sentence. Strong southerly winds, meaning winds coming from the south, moving northward, will support surface dew points increasing into the upper 60s to perhaps low 70s. That's unheard of, for this year at least. That hasn't happened this year yet. So that's why I said for this year, it's unheard of. Alright, next sentence that's being highlighted. Diurnal heating of this air mass will result in MU CAPE values nearing 4,000 joules per kilogram across central Oklahoma. I don't think y'all can fathom how much 4,000 joules per kilogram of most unstable convective available potential energy. I don't think you can fathom how much that is. 1,000 joules per kilogram is enough to spark a thunderstorm that can persist for quite some time. 2,000 joules per kilogram can spark many storms that have a boosted longevity. So imagine doubling 2,000 joules per kilogram to 4,000 joules per kilogram. I mean, the CAPE system is not really a doubling thing, it's more kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily exponential by a little bit, but 4,000 joules per kilogram means thunderstorms can explode in literally like a couple of minutes. They will fire and immediately grow to tens of thousands of feet because they are bursting upwards so high. Their convection is shooting upwards so much that when the cap breaks, uh, the cap is just something that prevents thunderstorms from developing. When the cap breaks, boom. When one thunderstorm spawns, boom, another one will spawn, and boom, it'll become a slew of completely dangerous thunderstorms. This is not good. Next sentence. Deep layer shear approaching 50 knots will overspread the region during the afternoon as the main wave approaches. 50 knots of shear is not good whatsoever. 50 knots of shear is strong and definitely supports tornadoes. Okay, so please, on Sunday, there will likely be a tornado threat. Now, again, the models are going to be wishy-washy. They're going to say one image and then say another image and then say another image. You know, all of the models are going to differ from one another. Their scenarios are going to be prognosticated in a different way. And so the uncertainty makes it hard to jump the gun. Now, you don't want to jump the gun. You don't want to fear monger. You don't want to doomcast. You don't want to spread fake news or news that can be challenged. You want to spread the right news, and you have to understand that the factor of uncertainty plays a role in literally everything related to weather. Everything related to weather revolves around uncertainty. The reason why the Storm Prediction Center can seem so conservative at times, conservative meaning that they're conserving their severe weather probabilities, the reason why the Storm Protection Center seems so conservative is because of this uncertainty. Uncertainty, again, like I said, plays a role in everything that is related to meteorology and weather forecasting. So, but again, like I was saying earlier, 50 knots of shear is very, very, very strong. It's very strong and definitely contributes to tornadic environments. Anyways, so these last sentences. Although global models are struggling to initiate convection along the dry line, pattern recognition would support a significant, keyword is significant, severe weather threat Sunday evening. Now, that is absurd because the Storm Prediction Center is saying that even though the convective allowing portions of these models do not show really any convection, which is good, even with that suppressed convective signal, a substantial and significant threat of severe weather is still in the cards. That is how powerful and potent this environment will likely be on Sunday. I will not be surprised if if the risk for Sunday gets upgraded to an enhanced risk, maybe even a moderate risk. Very likely. All right. So, the lack of model convective initiation results in enough uncertainty to preclude the introduction of 30% unconditional severe probabilities. However, all severe hazards will be possible on Sunday. Again, like I said, everything revolves around uncertainty. Uncertainty makes the Storm Prediction Center more conservative, and the more conservative the Storm Prediction Center is, the higher likelihood that they will preclude a certain outlook, i.e., upgrading from a 15% slight risk equivalent to a 30% enhanced risk equivalent. Again, all severe hazards will be possible, so very large hail, very damaging winds, and very strong tornadoes. Let's just say that. And then this last paragraph. The severe threat will continue into Monday, day 7, as the mid-level low and surface cyclone translate east into the lower Mississippi Valley. The severe threat may continue into Tuesday, day 8, across portions of the southeast United States, Although numerous days of preceding convection should use up the steep lapse rate reservoir to the rest, resulting in too much uncertainty to introduce unconditional severe probabilities at this time. Again, ta-da, uncertainty is involved in everything. Can't say it enough. Haven't said it enough. Uh, so, the severe potential will hinder going into Tuesday of next week, which is awesome because it says that all the days of convection will use up and soak up all of the lapse rates to the point where no lapse rates are going to necessarily be left for other storms. Again, doesn't mean thunderstorms can't fire on Tuesday. They probably will. However, that combined with uncertainty plays a role, and that's why they didn't just extend everything all the way out to day 8. So, I really have nothing else to say that won't make this a 50-minute long video, other than the fact that the environments that are going to be dealt with, this environment on Thursday, this environment on Friday, this environment on Saturday, this environment on Sunday, and this environment on Monday, all that they are going to all have volatile environments that are capable of significant severe weather, including very large hail, very damaging winds, and very strong tornadoes. Yes, very strong tornadoes are a very likely possibility, especially on Sunday, with the 4,000 joules per kilogram of a most unstable cape and 50 knots of shear at most overspreading the region. That screams tornado outbreak. Now, am I 100% confident that there's going to be a tornado outbreak? No. Again, I've said this 8 times, I'll say it 8 times more. Uncertainty precludes everything, and every single thing is hindered by uncertainties. However, when uncertainties start to let up, that's when, you can actually deep dive into things. That's when risks can be upgraded. That's when wording can be used in a more personal or startling manner. That's when, the alert meter goes up. And so once the days get closer and closer, once the days start to tick by, we will know more and more and more and more about these days and what they pose. But again, like I said, just expect or prepare for very strong tornadoes, very large hail, and very damaging winds. This is again, another very long stretch of severe weather. The severe weather season, peak tornado season, is May and June. So we're not even there yet, technically. We still have 9 days until May 1st. May 1st is peak tornado season for, Tornado Alley, Dixie Alley, the United States, basically. So please be prepared for that. Please watch for model trends. They will be wishy-washy throughout the period, and throughout the upcoming days, they will still be wishy-washy. So please pay attention to model trends and pay attention to what the Storm Prediction Center has to say. It is very, very, very important that you follow this information and you understand it. It genuinely could save your life. Again, tornadoes, large hail damaging winds, all of those but very strong. You should know what to do when a warning comes through. Alright? Now I'm gonna get out of your hair because this is now officially, I believe, over a 40-minute long video. So I'm sacrificing my storage for y'all, but I have to do this. So, like I've said 58 times, but I can't seem to have it come to fruition, I'm going to go. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Watch out for that severe weather.